Everyone's talking about the Benedict Mathurin game because he had 26 points and he did great this game. But I think that people are wrong. I think the player of the game today was TJ McConnell. We'll get more into that in a second, but for now, welcome back to the Out of Bounds podcast where we talk about the NBA Finals right now. That's basically what this channel is about. I'm Brian. I'm going to be talking, yapping your ear off today. And game three was another classic. We're 2 for 3 in terms of classics this series, and I think a lot of people were surprised, or at least are surprised, that this series was a banger. But how could it not be a banger? I feel like people are underselling the Pacers. Hopefully, people wake up to this now because game one, of course, was still basically the Thunder dominating and the Pacers just coming back and stealing it. Game two was the Thunder dominating, but game three was all about the Pacers. We're talking out defending them, out hustling them, out shooting them, had less turnovers than them. I mean, that's a big deal when you're talking about the Thunder. We saw what they did to the Pacers in game one. We saw what they did to the Timberwolves all of last series. Obviously, they are probably going to make adjustments, come back, just like Rick Carlisle did in game two to come back here in game three and dominate in Indiana. But either way, you can't deny that what the Pacers did yesterday was amazing, and they deserve this 2-1 lead right now. They worked well on both sides of the floor, but right now let's talk about the scoring. Obviously, we saw Benedict Mathurin with that 26-point game. He did amazing yesterday. Obi Toppin did a great job. I mean, all their buckets came at perfect times, and they could produce from all 3 levels of the floor. We saw a lot of great shooting from the entire team, especially Hallie. Finally, he came back, he put a higher priority on scoring, and then look what happened. The playmaking game was wide open for him. He did a great job of drawing defenders in, handing it off to somebody else, or making the kick out and letting them shoot. And it was just amazing to see. He finished with like 22, 9, 11, and 2. Almost a triple double with 2 steals. And we'll get into the defense in a second because the defense was the reason why they won this game. But I just wanted to shout out the offense really quick because they all did their part. I mean, Benedict Mathurin had 26 on 75% shooting. There's no defense for that as OKC. Like, you're going to have to live with that, and that's just what they did, and they ended up losing the game. But the defense is where I was just in awe this entire game. They were stripping the ball. They had so many steals as a team, and they gave the Thunder 19 turnovers. Miles Turner had 5 blocks. We're going to get into TJ McConnell in a second. Don't you guys worry. But Miles Turner did a great job in the fourth quarter, specifically making sure the Thunder had nothing going for them. And that's the reason why they won in the fourth quarter. It was just really, really good to see from them that they can bring that defense to that level. They out-defended the Thunder. I didn't even know if that was possible. Genuinely. Tying into the defense is the effort and the pace. Their running in transition was amazing. Their hustle for offensive boards was something that I talked about in the last video. I wanted to see them get that back because that is the reason why they were so good, is because they out hustled teams. And they finally did that in game three. This looked like the Pacers. Game one and two did not really look like the Pacers other than that fourth quarter comeback. But game three looked like the Pacers that we've seen this entire playoff. Literally, I mean, I saw like 5 different Pacers grab an O board yesterday. Hallie did, TJ McConnell did, Miles Turner did, Obi Toppin had that crazy putback. I mean, they were just firing on all cylinders, and their defense on Shea was different too. They had 6 different defenders on him last game, and all 6 defenders shut him down. They weren't able to keep up with him in the high ball screens and just the motion of the offense from the Thunder in game two because they kept the same defenders on him. But they threw 6 different guys at him, and Reed Shepard, I'm shouting you out right now, Reed Shepard. You did an amazing job covering him as the primary defender. Other guys came in and helped, and that's what really threw Shea off, was all the fresh bodies, all the defensive depth that the Pacers actually have that made him uncomfortable like he wasn't last game. Still, though, the high ball screens that iHeart gives for him are still really good, and it opens up the middle of the floor for Shea. And every time, I swear to God, every time he started driving down the middle, it was an automatic bucket or a kick out. But that didn't really happen so much this game. I feel like they wanted him to shoot, which is interesting. I feel like when the Thunder can't get their offense involved, they're not going to win because Shea is going to make tough shots. He's really good around the rim, but you can kind of live with that because you're like already accounting for it. Once the other members of the team start to get going, that's when it's just an avalanche that you can't stop. And that's what happened with the Pacers this game, but it didn't happen with the Thunder because they kept tiring out Shea. So every time he started going downhill, he wasn't thinking, oh, I got this and I can do whatever I want. He's like, oh my God, I'm open. Let me shoot the ball. And he didn't really do that well. This was definitely his worst game by far, and it's because of that defensive pressure that the Pacers put on him. And finally, let's talk about the player of the game to me. I think Benedict Mathurin deserves those rights as well, but I personally am giving it to TJ McConnell. He had off the inbound, and every time you could see it in the like they were like down 28-32, I think, and he scored to, or someone scored to bring it to 28, and then he stole the ball back and then passed it to, I think, either Neesmith or Matherin, and then they got to 30. And then it happened again, like 2 minutes down the line, and they took the lead, and the crowd was so into it. And in my opinion, TJ McConnell made that happen. I mean, he came in when Hallie was out and Shea was out specifically. And I remember the announcers were saying, who's going to win these minutes, because it's really important to see where the momentum shifts when both stars come back. And TJ McConnell single-handedly gave them such an advantage that Mark Daignault literally had to bring Shea in prematurely, giving Tyrese an extra like 3-4 minutes of rest. I mean, that's invaluable to your team. He also had 10 points and I think 5 assists. So 10, 5, and 5, 5 being the steals, is just generational. And I love TJ McConnell. I'm always going to love TJ McConnell after this game. He showed heart, he showed grit and determination, and I love that. Moving on to the Thunder, and this is basically just the other side of the coin from what I talked about with the Pacers. They just couldn't keep up today. They couldn't. I mean, you saw Dort and Caruso in the beginning of the game when they're both in the backcourt, when they're both at the top of the key, whoever the ball handler is not going to get past them. And that's really hard. But something I saw the Pacers do in their offensive scheme is have Caruso's man sit in the corner. It allows Tyrese to run through screens and get the motion working on another side of the court, because once Caruso is there poking his hands at whatever ball handler Dort is guarding, I mean, it's almost always going to be a steal. And if not, it's going to disrupt their entire motion and they're not going to get a good shot off probably. So they need to do a better job of making sure that Caruso is as close as possible to the ball handler, even when he's not on him, because that extra pressure will always make sure that they don't really feel comfortable. But they weren't able to do that this game, and it allowed the Pacers a lot of space. I want to preface what I'm about to say with Shea by saying he did a great job performing despite the pressure that the Pacers put on him. But he is not going to be their savior. He can't be their savior. He is one of the most inefficient players in this series right now in terms of like volume to points, because the entire offense runs through him. And it's not his fault, but I think it's a coaching thing where you need to involve other people. And while some players aren't really stepping up right now, like J-Dub is basically a non-factor when he's not driving, players like Chet, Lou Dort, and Ihart are all players that could get more usage, and I think it's something that they're going to need to do. It was the same thing as Tyrese in game one. The Pacers, got to the finals by making Tyrese the second, third, or even fourth option sometimes and running the offense through him and kicking out. But once the Thunder knew that was happening, they just simply anticipated the pass and got those turnovers, or they would pick him because they knew he wasn't going strong up with it, you know? They adjusted, and now their offense is back and they're moving. Same with the Thunder. Shea got them to the finals. They're a great team, but Shea's scoring output helped get them to the finals. But now that the Pacers know, I mean, they're getting very familiar with each other right now in their styles of play. The Pacers know now that Shea is always going to be the one that's going to try and get downhill and either finish or kick out. So they made him the point of attack. It's different with players like Stephen Curry, where you're just going to need to bother him a lot, but you need to be ready for Steph to do some crazy magic. For Shea, it's always going to be he's going to try and get down the middle, and he's going to try and either finish around you, kick out, or just pull up for the mini. There's very limited options for him, and he's so good at those options. But when you know that's going to happen, you're going to anticipate it. So I think they need to start running the offense around other players as well, even though it's not quite their identity, because they need to catch the Pacers off guard, and that's when they're going to be able to capitalize. Defensively, I've been very disappointed by Chet, because he was supposed to be a premier shot blocker and a very versatile player on defense for his stature. And he has been, and he's shown moments of that. But I think it's a little too early in his career to be able to depend on him defensively and offensively. I think he'll get there in maybe 2 years. But right now, you kind of see him as a deer in headlights every once in a while, and it's just not working. He is, again, supposed to be the top 5 shot blocker in the league, and that's being like conservative with it. He had 0 blocks last game. And that should not be the case. I mean, Miles Turner had 5. He's a great shot blocker in himself, but Tyrese had a couple. A lot of players had blocks on the Pacers. And being the anchor on defense, especially on the interior, he should probably have been a little more proactive in there. Obviously, the Pacers planned around that, and they kind of stretched out the floor a lot. But I would like to see that from him going into the future. I need to see him and his defensive IQ improve if he wants to be one of the greatest defenders in the league, which he totally can be. In terms of adjustments for game 3, a lot of it, like I said, revolves around involving a lot of other people. Chet needs to get deeply involved in the offense, I believe, because he's shown flashes of being good, and giving him consistent opportunity will allow him to get more comfortable quicker. I also think Lou Dort could be such a good catch and shoot option because I swear to God, he does not miss those. He's missed, I feel like every corner shot he has missed in this finals series was in the fourth quarter, whether it was game 1 or 3. But every other time, I swear to God, he shoots it and it goes in. Caruso is also a plus shooter. He hasn't been doing that great this series around the arc, but he can still provide for you. J Dub needs to get his shot back, but obviously, you can't really do much to control that unless you're him. And it also just involves taking care of the ball a little more because, yeah, TJ McConnell did a great job with those inbound steals, but that should simply never happen if you're the Thunder. You should just not let that happen. Caruso on one inbound where it got stolen, he got the ball because they just scored, and he was like, oh, we need to push the floor. He literally brings it behind the baseline and just starts chucking it. TJ McConnell's right in front of him. And he already had like 3, 4 steals already at that point. Why are you doing that? It's just a matter of taking more care of the ball because you're a good team. And if you take your time and take care of the ball, you're going to find something that works. Literally, I think they scored on almost every steal he had as well because it was right there on the right under their own basket. So imagine they just took a little more care of the ball and they made sure not to do that. And that's around 10 points that they could have gotten back and maybe even win the game. One more thing, both teams were very gassed going into the third, but you could tell the Pacers still had a lot of fuel in them. And like by the like middle to end of the third, for the rest of the game, every time a player got fouled, they fell on the floor and they just sat there for like 10 seconds. You can already see the fatigue like settling in for the Thunder specifically. And if they're getting tired that quickly, I don't see a big chance for them to make it all the way unless they're just on. They have to be on for the rest of this series, and they can't afford to not be at this point because the Pacers are running away with it. They need to catch them now. Anyway, that's going to be all for me. Click the link in my description to see my Instagram, my TikTok, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Let me know what you want to see going into the off season because I'm just going to be hanging out. So I'm going to make videos based on what you guys want to see, and we can build this channel together. I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys after game 4.